So, this is something that has been in the headlines as of late that kind of caught me by surprise. Apparently, there is a discussion in regards to the Outrun video game getting its own film adaptation sometime in the future. And it's something that has been reported on by a variety of different media outlets like the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Crunchyroll. They have all pretty much confirmed that this is something that is going to happen in the future. And it turns out that Michael Bay and Sydney Sweeney are going to team up to produce this adaptation. And I have no idea when it's going to come out or when the expected time frame for its release is. But it's something that has the gaming community buzzing. And honestly, I find it rather shocking that Outrun never got its own film adaptation, despite the fact that it has been around for like 40 years now. Because I think the very first Outrun game came out back in 1986. It was like an arcade racing game. But that game is really iconic, and I feel like it should have gotten its own film adaptation a very long time ago. In fact, I don't think too many people of this generation really know what Outrun is or is really familiar with the series in general. And not only that, the landscape of gaming has evolved so much since like the 80s and the early 90s and all that because a lot of emphasis is placed more on realism and mechanics and stuff like that opposed to just playing fun, arcade racing games. And honestly, I feel like a film adaptation of Outrun, if done right, it will it will reintroduce this current generation to a racing franchise that was once popular back in the day. And it's something that I have high hopes for because it's supposed to be done by Universal Pictures, the same company that worked on the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out back in 2023. And there are some people who are probably cynical about how a potential film adaptation of Outrun will turn out because we had gotten a film adaptation of Gran Turismo back in 2023. And it was, I don't know, I feel like that film got a mixed reception because it had gotten a Metascore of 48, but it got a user score of 7.1. But it was also a box office success because it had like a budget of 60 mil, and it did like 122 mil or somewhere around that ballpark in terms of earning box office revenue. So technically, the film was a success, and I feel like with Gran Turismo, it was done in a way where people could sink their teeth into it. Because, like, you look at the Gran Turismo video game series, it's not really story driven or anything like that. And I feel like the way a story was added to this, and I just feel like the way it was presented and all that stuff, it actually made for a very interesting film, especially for those who are, casual gamers and for those who are not heavily familiar with the Gran Turismo series. And I feel like that's going to be the same thing with like the Outrun movie once it comes out in the future. I feel like it's something that a lot of casual gamers nowadays is really familiar with, but old school gamers who grew up back in like the late 80s, 90s, even the 2000s to some extent. It's something that I'm pretty sure like they'll appreciate, especially if they included some musical pieces from the Outrun game that came out back in 2003. I think it was Outrun 2. There was some good music in that game. If they included one of those tracks in this upcoming film, I honestly feel like that would mean a lot. It would add more to the authenticity of the film itself. But as of right now, the details for this film is scarce at the moment, and I'm not exactly sure what to expect, what the creative direction is going to look like, or anything like that. Hopefully, there are like video game references and stuff like that in the film, and hopefully, it's something that a lot of people can enjoy, as much as they did with the Super Mario Brothers movie and the Sonic the Hedgehog trilogy that we got within the past couple of years. But I don't know. I mean, racing films are, I mean, unless it's like, the Fast and the Furious or what have you, like racing films are kind of, to me, they feel a bit niche, especially if it's based off a video game franchise, because with like Outrun, I don't think it was heavily story driven or anything like that. So I guess coming up with a good story is going to be one of the biggest challenges that this film faces, because it's not like, the Need for Speed games like back in the 2000s where you actually had a story about like street racing and stuff like that, that you can actually make a movie based on. But I do feel like it's kind of crazy that Outrun's getting its own film adaptation before Need for Speed. But Outrun, in my opinion, is an arcade classic. I feel like this is something that's long overdue, and it's something that I have high hopes for.